Hey guys, it's Wendy. This video is kind of late to the game, but I wanted to send it anyway. I had too much footage to just toss it aside, so I'm gonna try to get it out here today. Here, Addie. Her little toenails are so loud. Hey, Addie. Hey, baby. You want to be in the video? It's Addie. It's my girl. She's got a little bit of stage fright. She's a sweetheart though. She's my baby. Love her. Anyway, it's basically, I wanted to show you how I source my materials and ideas for coming up for a paint class, our Farmhouse Paint Class. This was our Valentine Paint Class. And so it's got a little bit of footage of the class. If you thought about taking one of our classes, it's a lot of fun. Painting for me is very therapeutic. I love to paint. I love doing it in the classes for socialization, but like if I'm at home and I have an old piece of furniture or something to paint, I like to be by myself. I don't like to be interrupted. I'm kind of weird about that, but just sitting there painting in your own thoughts and just kind of concentrating on the piece of work, you know, the furniture or art piece that you're working on. There's nothing better than that. And it kind of gets your mind off of other things that may be bothering you, and it just makes you kind of focus in on one thing. And anyway, all I can say is I enjoy it a lot. So anyway, it just shows how I source the materials, come up with the ideas, practice on and what it's going to be in the class, and then actually some footage of the class to give you an idea how that is. I would love for you guys to come join me if you are local to Hudson, North Carolina. If you live close to us, would love for you to come take one of our classes. I don't have any classes scheduled right now. I'm trying to come up with an idea right now of what we're going to do next. And sometimes it's hard to fit in that kind of stuff with trying to get the store, you know, new products coming in and trying to get the store ready with all of that. And also, you know, your life is also a major part, like taking care. My parents have moved here and taking care of things with them and getting things straightened out, and also taking care of my own house. Sometimes it's just hard to meld all that together, so I'm kind of wanting to show you guys how I juggle. And I know all of us juggle, and all of us have multiple facets of our life that we try to juggle and do. So anyway, this is one small facet, and it is our paint class. Hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, I'm at my favorite hardware store in Granite Falls. I had some footage yesterday that I lost, so they're letting me come back in. I just wanted y'all to see where I go to all the time. I'm kind of sad because this time next year it probably won't be here anymore. They're going to be tearing it down. But this is my favorite place, and I come and get supplies for my store all the time, for my paint classes and also for my displays and even for home. It's 5 minutes from my house and 5 minutes from my store. Look at these awesome guys, these handsome men. Hey, I'm just gonna tour around a little bit. So sometimes I come and get my garden stuff from here. And then like yesterday, I needed some little picture hangers for my paint class. And so they have them. Pick these up. They had some smaller ones. That's this empty rack here. I bought all of them. But I come here a lot and get a lot of tools. Random, just like handles and hooks. And you never know when you might need something like that. Believe it or not, I've used something like that to hang porch swings and everything else. But I just love this place. And let me give you a quick view. Look at all the nuts, bolts, and screws. All different sizes and shapes and types. Even more back here. So this is Granite Hardware in downtown Granite Falls. And honestly, y'all, this is like one of my favorite places to come and shop. I know I'm a little bit weird for a girl that I get excited about tools, nuts, and bolts, but I just love this place. But like I was saying earlier, they're widening the road and putting in a roundabout in downtown, and unfortunately, they're gonna have to knock this building down. Look at the floors, oh my gosh. And they creak when you walk on them. I love it. So anyway, this is where I get a lot of my supplies, sandpaper. They have stains and spray paint, you name it. Now let me show you one of my places that I really like to go in the store is down to their basement. I come here and get paint, and I get chains. I can get it cut to whatever length I needed. And so let me take you downstairs on a tour. See this handle? This was an inspiration in my house. I used the same railing, the same kind of railing with plumbing pipe in my house for my stairs. So here's downstairs, and this is where all their plumbing fixtures are. Or I should say fittings. So all these wonderful galvanized pipes, I use these guys in my store to hang my clothes on and other things on. You got all these different fittings. Your end caps. That's not an end cap, but anyway, I just love these. They have it in the gray, and they also have it, they have bigger ones. I have long rods that I use. But isn't this the coolest place ever? Let's go back upstairs. And these folks are local. It's a local owned store, so I want to encourage you to shop local and check out your little local hardware stores. They're awesome. We caught the train. It doesn't come through Granite very often, but we caught it today. How cool is that? It's a short train today. Where's that short train going? So cool. Down 321, you gotta do a little U-E to get to our place. And depending on traffic, you might be here for a minute. Okay, let's go to work. Hey ladies.
How are you?
We're good. You're on the tube. So I found some wood back in the back office. This is leftover wood that we used to put down on our floors in the cottage when we were renovating before we first opened up. And so I am just going to cut up this piece of wood here into several pieces, and we're going to use this to make signs, Valentine signs in our class. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, let me show you this new brush that we have that I am in love with. This is called the Grip. We sell it here at the store. It's $12.99. Hopefully we'll be online soon. But it's made out of synthetic bristles, and anyway, it's a really comfortable brush. So the first thing we're going to do, we're using cotton white, and this is from Farmhouse Paint. We have over 33 different colors, but cotton white is one of our top 3 colors that we sell at the cottage. And what I'm going to do here is just, I need to put 2 coats of paint on this piece of wood, letting it dry in between coats. So I like to make sample boards. Well, I have to make sample boards before my class to make sure I have the techniques and everything down that I want to teach in the class. And this actual board is not the one that I cut outside. This is a board I had left over from a vendor, palette art, and it was one I had left over, so I decided to use it up. And then we'll be using the cut boards for my class. But again, we're going to do the first coat, do a thin layer. We're covering all the sides, the edges. Once we let this dry, we'll come back and do a second coat. When we're doing the class, sometimes we have to use a blow dryer to get it dry in between coats, just to speed it up, because normally our classes are only about 2 hours long. And I like to do 2 projects. I like for people to at least take 2 things home with them from our classes, so we have to use the blow dryer a lot. Now here's a trick that I'm using. You see me, I'm putting this back in its plastic bag. I keep little sandwich bags or saran wrap around whenever I'm painting. I just do this to keep from having to wash out my brush twice, and it just speeds things up. Sometimes I've even put them in the refrigerator for overnight. Okay, so now we're ready to do our stencil, and I am using stencil from JRV Stencil Company. It's Jamie Ray Vintage, and Kissing Booth is the stencil we're going to be using on this one. And this is available at the store, as well as many others for the different seasons and for every day. And I just love these stencils. They're really thick. They're not as thin as the ones like you get at Hobby Lobby or other places. They're nice, thick meal. I think that's what you call it. But what I'm doing here is I am going to measure out and try to get this as even on the board as possible. I'm probably going to take way too long to do this, but once I feel comfortable with the centering of the stencil, I'm going to use that blue tape and I'm going to tape down my two sides. Okay, you guys, one thing that I have learned since I've done this, and this is why I always do samples to perfect how I'm going to do the class, I went straight into stamping on the black, antique black on this sign, but you should, and from now on this is what I do, use the same color, stamp on the same color as your background. So here I should do another dabbing of the white before I do the black, and this will help reduce bleeding, because what will happen is the white will actually go into the bleed places and it will kind of block off and it'll blend into your background and you won't see any bleed, and then you go back with your black. So after the first coat has dried, then I go back and I do a second coat and fully cover the stencil one more time, trying not to push too hard, just dabbing it. And in our classes, to speed up the drying, we'll take a blow dryer and blow it dry to speed up, because our classes are usually only 2 hours long. Or if I'm in a hurry, I'll also use the blow dryer. If not, I'll just let it dry in between. Like again, it only takes just a few minutes. Chalk paint dries really fast. It's another reason why you don't want to put on too heavy of a layer. It just dries a lot quicker, and you'll have a better result if it's not real thick. So sample boards are also a good way for me to test out things, and I can tell you from this experience right here that I was going way too heavy on the paint. You really need to like dab into the paint, and then you're almost taking every bit of it back off. Your dabber or your sponge or your brush barely has any paint on it, and you're just putting thin layers. And honestly, it's better to go with 3 very thin layers than to do 1 thick or even 2 thick. So again, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so I'm done with my 2 layers, and it's probably still wet, and it just depends on if I think I'm going to drag paint across, whether I'll let it dry or not. And I was being very impatient, so I went ahead and I wanted to lift it up. So here I'm trying to fix some of the bleeding. It wasn't really bad, and for like the first time doing this, it really wasn't bad at all. But if I had did my base coat, did the white again on the before I put the black on, I wouldn't have had this problem at all. So I'm trying to fix, and I have just found that you really cannot fix bleed this way. I thought you could, but honestly it'd be better for you just to wait until it's all dry, do a light little sanding around the edges, and you're better off that way. But if you do that little trick with doing the paint of the base color, you should not have this problem. Okay, so here are 3 sample boards that I created. So this gave a good idea
for me and also to my students of the different choices that they have. We have 33 colors, so they could pick their own background and also their stencil color. But this is a good way for me to know exactly how the class is going to go as well. Okay, so we're jumping right in here. I'm making a tassel at this point, but you can see the heart underneath. It's been painted black. This is a heart that I got from the Dollar Tree. It was a bright pink and red, and it had glitter on it. I scraped the glitter off and actually had to spackle it a little bit to block out some of the words, but this has 2 coats of antique black on it, and I even painted the ribbon in between the little slats. And here I am making a tassel. And to make the tassel, I know I didn't show you really good here, but I used my hand, my 4 fingers, and I wrapped the rope around about 5 or 6 times and left it in a loop. And then you can see me here, I'm tying the top. I left a loop at the top, and then I tied around about a ½ inch down, wrapped it around a couple times and tied it. And I'm just fidgeting here like crazy trying to straighten out my things. But after I had that tied, I took my scissors and I cut the bottom of the loop, and that's where the tassel is going to be. And then I like to unravel, this is jute string, and I like to unravel that jute. And sometimes it's really crazy and like wiry, but if you take and wet it, it will straighten it out a little bit, and then you can even trim it to where it's even or kind of rounded the way that you want. But here I'm just fidgeting, trying to get my tassel just right. Okay, so now I got my tassel pretty much made, and I'm going to attach it to my heart. And this right here is like my learning curve. This helps me with my class to figure out exactly the best way to do it and how I'm going to teach it to my class. Basically what I did here is I tied the string, and I'm going to loop it through, and there's a little hole at the top that I'm going to attach it. Okay, so I grabbed some smaller jute, and I noticed that when I would lift up my heart that the tassel would stick straight out. So I'm putting a little knot here right at the base of the hole, and that way it will keep it from pulling on that tassel, and it will hang straight. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so next I did this on the silhouette, creating me a stencil that says love you more. And what I'm doing here right now is weeding out the letters. And this blue paper is a stencil grade vinyl that I bought off of Amazon. I can't remember, it's Oracle, but I can't remember the number exactly, but it works really well. I'll try to remember next time to tell you guys, but it works really well for painted signs. And so here I cut the words apart, and anyway, I'm just going to run through this really quick and kind of lay out where I want everything to be and weed these letters out. Okay, so I've already put down the stencil, and remember when I told you guys about doing the same background color for your first layer on your stencil? I'm doing it this time on this. I'm doing it correctly, and you'll see a big difference in how it turns out. So again, I'm going to put one layer of the same background color to help keep from having paint bleed on this item. And just going to give it just one nice thin layer. Okay, so now my black layer is done, and now I'm taking cotton white, and that's going to be our main color. I'm just using a cosmetic sponge. I found that it's really easy and simple to do. And again, you dab it in, and you should dab most of it back off, and then you just up and down motion, just tap it, trying to make sure I'm level here. So using this cosmetic sponge, it's really simple and easy. I'm just going to dab it just up and down, straight up and down, trying the best to hit where the stencil should be. It's a little bit harder to see now that it's got that black paint on it. As long as you don't go off of the blue, you'll be okay. You can always come back and touch up if you accidentally hit over the blue, but it's much nicer if you can try to avoid doing that. But anyway, we're going to do 2 layers of the white, letting it dry in between. Okay, so my 2 coats of cotton white is now dry, and I'm going to start peeling off my stencil. Now you can lightly sand before you do this. I was a little too eager and did not do that, but sometimes it helps it to come off a little bit easier when you do that, but just don't go overboard or you'll sand your paint right off. So I'm just taking the stencil off, and wherever you have like the center part of your O's or your E's, you're going to have to weed that out, and I like to use an X-Acto knife. I find that it's a lot easier, and I can keep from gouging into my piece and not take the paint off with it a little bit easier. Okay, so that's it. Give it a little look here. I really like it. It's got that chalkboard look, got the cute little tassel. Tassels are really popular right now. Okay, so I created 2 heart samples for my students and for myself, and they had a choice of doing any colors they wanted to, but these were my 2 favorite. So the first one is white ash with gray Limoges and a little bit of chocolate, and it just has a very farmhouse feel to it. And then the other is antique black with cotton white, and that has a chalkboard feel. And I love both these styles. And the thing I like about these hearts is that, especially the one that says love you more, I would hang that in my house all the time, any time of the year. Class is in session, y'all. This is our first class, and a lot of times the first class I still have little kinks that I have to work out, and these ladies are graciously helping me do that. But we're having a good time. They're putting their first coat or first layer of paint on their hearts. As you can see, they're a bright pink and had some crazy lettering on them. We ended up having to come back and use a little bit of my spackle, and I mixed the paint in with it so we wouldn't have to do another layer, and it helped to cover up some of that lettering on these guys. But we're just having a good time. We're talking, socializing, and painting. And again, I tell people all the time, this is so therapeutic, and I just love it. I love painting. It does something to the soul. Okay, so I'm handing out little plastic baggies, little sandwich bags to these girls so they can put their little sponge painters in. And because I know we're going to have to do a second coat, this will just keep those from drying out. That's a good trick even at home to use, so I don't have to wash my brush out in between. And you can even put it in the refrigerator overnight, but I wouldn't go more than a day or 2 in the fridge. So now we're getting ready to start our first layer on our palette piece, and I'm going to divvy that out here. Okay, so we're getting ready to put our first coat on our palette piece, and everyone's picked out which stencil they want, and they're finalizing their colors. So Lisa here on the end of the table, I'm helping her to mix a custom color. She wants South Caldwell Spartan's burgundy, and she is creating an I love you sign for her honey for Valentine's Day, and I just love it. So what we're doing is we're taking Oh So Red, and we're going to take just a little bit of antique black, and we're mixing it together. And I actually showed her how to do it, and she's going to get it to the exact color that she likes. And this actually turned out really fabulous. She used gray for her lettering on it, and that is the colors for South Caldwell, and it turned out really cool. Okay, so everybody's got their first coat of paint on their palette pieces, and they're going back to their hearts to put the second layer of paint on it. And this is when we went to dry brush these guys. Everybody chose to do the white ash version. That's when we discovered that we had to use the spackle and come back over it. But the spackle gave it a really cool texture, so we really liked it. You can see here where I'm pulling it up so I can get in those grooves to get down there and paint the bright red ribbon that was behind the hearts. But anyway, we're going to just keep painting here and keep moving on. Just wanted to give you a little closer view. Lisa is putting her second coat of her customized Spartan burgundy color on her palette piece, and the other ladies are putting their second coat on their hearts. For some reason, I didn't get any footage of them painting on their stencils or their letters, but I think it turned out great.